Hello, my name is Emanuel and I'm a director at STR, a co-star company. Welcome to this week's video on the UK hotel performance. We will look back at the week that was from the 27th of July to the 2nd of August, as well as report on total reporting inventory occupancy or economic occupancy, which I shall explain further shortly. Starting with our standard occupancy slide, and we can see here that another week has brought another improvement in hotel performance across the UK. The pattern remains the same, with weekend peaks, but for the last 5 weeks now, we have seen week-on-week improvements, and long may this continue. Please note that unless specified as economic occupancy, the data in this video is only for hotels that were open and reporting data to STR. Average rate declines have again softened in the last week. Declines stood at 30% last week when compared to the same week in 2019. Still significant, but certainly a better picture compared to the 48% declines we saw back in June. So when we put those metrics together, we can see that RevPAR declines are also softening, with daily year-on-year decreases of between 59 and 69%. So as we saw on our first slide, occupancy levels are increasing and the weekends are leading the way. We can see all days of the week are seeing growth, but it is Friday and Saturday nights, here highlighted in red, which are really seeing the strongest increases. Last Saturday night, the 1st of August, saw occupancy reach 52% nationwide. That growth is very much being driven, as we've discussed previously, by the regions, and especially those driven by leisure demand. Our UK map once again looks brighter this week, and we can see some especially promising data in Blackpool, York, Plymouth, Bournemouth and Brighton, all markets benefiting from concerns around international travel and quarantines, and the fact that summer 2020 is rapidly becoming the summer of the staycation. Compare that to the larger cities where things do not look so rosy, with London being the laggard at 25% occupancy. Sticking with the capital, we can again see here the daily data, and whilst weekends are recovering ever so slightly, there is no weekday improvement. The lack of corporate and MICE demand, along with the continued closure of many attractions and the loss of significant amounts of international visitation, is really hitting the capital hard. So let's now return to those leisure markets and show how they have steadily grown since hotels could reopen. It has been week-on-week improvements across the board, with the last 7 days to the 2nd of August seeing occupancy top 80% in the Lake District, Devon and Cornwall and Bournemouth, and occupancy north of 70% in Blackpool and Brighton. All very positive figures when you consider the circumstances we are all living under. One key differentiator between this downturn and past downturns is that so many hotels closed during the height of the pandemic. This chart details the percentage of hotels that report their data to STR that have been closed. As you can see, this rose rapidly and reached 90% of all hotels across regional UK and around 80% in the capital. As we all know, this situation was completely unprecedented. This number declined slightly throughout May and June, but as you can see, the closures have declined significantly since reopenings were permitted from the 4th of July. More hotels have reopened across the regions, with the percentage closed now just below 20% and at 30% in London. The fact that these hotels have been closed has had an impact on performance. This brings me on nicely to total reporting inventory, otherwise known as economic occupancy. This STR standard methodology measures occupancy of all the open hotels in a market. It effectively tracks realised demand against realised supply and excludes temporarily closed rooms that could not be booked. This metric does not measure the total potential occupancy of a market, that is, the number of rooms demanded as a percentage of the total number of rooms existing in a market. For this metric, STR introduced the total room inventory methodology. This methodology takes realised demand and divides it by the total number of rooms in a market regardless of operational status. Until all temporarily closed properties in a market have reopened, total room inventory occupancy will be less than occupancy because its supply base is bigger. The size of the delta between these two occupancy measures can indicate the amount of hotel closures in a market as well as help assess market recovery. It is beneficial to look at this metric to fully understand the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on a market. In this chart, I've placed reporting occupancy, STR standard methodology, alongside economic occupancy for the month of July. We can see that many markets have effectively fully reopened, and this is the case in Blackpool and in Brighton, whereas the Lake District still has significant amounts of supply closed, as do London, Edinburgh and Birmingham, as the delta between the two occupancy levels is greater. The difference between the two occupancy measures in the Lake District is quite stark, 69% versus 31%, which is important to understand in order to gauge the market recovery to date. STR will, of course, continue to bring you more data on economic occupancy, along with all other performance metrics. The picture overall in the UK continues to improve week on week, and providing no second waves or wider lockdowns are enforced, we should be quietly confident that for the remainder of the summer months, this will, for the regional destinations at least, be the case. Thank you very much for watching, and be well.